Before the ships, before the borders, before the word Africa meant a continent divided, there was unity. A land of kings and queens, of empires and scholars, of gold and glory. From the sands of Egypt to the forests of Congo, Africa was the heartbeat of humanity. It gave the world life, and it would one day teach the world what survival truly means. But this is not just a story of conquest. It's the story of betrayal and brilliance, of pain and persistence. It's the story of how Africa was taken, and how Africa fought to rise again. Welcome to Africa Divided, the untold story of colonization and the fight for freedom. Long before European explorers dreamed of empires, Africa was already home to greatness. In West Africa, the Ghana Empire ruled with gold and trade. Merchants carried salt, ivory, and knowledge across the Sahara, connecting Africa to Arabia and beyond. Then came Mali, under Sundiata Keita, the Lion King who united the Mandinka clans. His descendant, Mansa Musa, became the richest man in human history. His pilgrimage to Mecca so grand, it changed the world's economy. In East Africa, the Swahili coast glimmered with cities like Kilwa, Zanzibar, and Mombasa, trading with India, Arabia, and China. While deep in the south, the kingdom of Mapungubwe and Great Zimbabwe rose with stone palaces and gold-covered tombs. Africa was never a land without civilization. It was a continent of architects, astronomers, and storytellers, masters of art, language, and trade. But the world beyond its shores began to hunger. The 15th century brought sails and shadows. In 1444, the Portuguese reached West Africa's coast. They traded cloth for gold, and then gold for lives. What began as trade soon became the greatest forced migration in history. The transatlantic slave trade ripped over 12 million Africans from their homes. Men, women, and children were sold, branded, and shipped across the Atlantic, never to see their homeland again. For 400 years, Africa bled. Empires fell. Villages vanished. And yet, Africa's music, spirit, and blood flowed into the veins of the New World, creating new cultures, new voices, and an unbreakable legacy of resistance. But as slavery began to fade, Europe turned its eyes to something even larger, Africa itself. By the late 1800s, Africa was seen not as a continent of nations, but a prize to be divided. Explorers like Livingstone and Stanley mapped rivers and valleys. Missionaries preached salvation, but behind them came soldiers, flags, and greed. Then, in 1884, the fate of Africa was sealed. In a palace in Berlin, 14 European powers met to decide who would own what. No African was invited. This was the Berlin Conference. Germany took East Africa. Britain took Nigeria, Egypt, and South Africa. France claimed vast lands from Senegal to Congo. Belgium seized the Congo Free State for its king's personal fortune. The lines drawn on a European map still divide Africa today. Kingdoms were split. Families were torn apart. And a new chapter of pain had begun. Africa did not kneel quietly. In Angola, Queen Nzinga led her people with brilliance, turning diplomacy and guerrilla warfare into weapons against the Portuguese. In Sudan, the Mahdi defeated British armies at Khartoum. In West Africa, Samory Touré built an empire of defiance, fighting the French for 16 years. In Ethiopia, Menelik II and Empress Tatu defeated Italy at the Battle of Adwa, the only African victory that stopped colonization in its tracks. But in other lands, the cost was unbearable. In Congo, King Leopold's soldiers cut off hands for rubber quotas. In Namibia, German troops exterminated the Herero and Nama people, Africa's first genocide. Colonization was not just conquest, it was cruelty masked as civilization. Africa became a machine for empire. Britain mined gold in South Africa and built railways for export, not for people. France spread its language but silenced native tongues. Belgium's Congo produced rubber, ivory, and blood. Yet, under oppression, Africa adapted. Africans learned European systems, not to serve them, but to challenge them. Students, priests, and soldiers began to ask, if we fight for Europe in their wars, who will fight for Africa? The 20th century brought 2 world wars. Millions of Africans fought under foreign flags, in France, Burma, and North Africa. They returned home with a new vision, freedom. In Ghana, Kwame Nkrumah led the charge for independence. In Kenya, Dedan Kimathi and the Mau Mau rose from the forests. In the Congo, Patrice Lumumba dreamed of unity and paid the price with his life. In South Africa, Nelson Mandela fought apartheid with courage and forgiveness. By the 1960s, the African map changed once more, this time by the hands of Africans. Flags of red, green, black, and gold replaced those of empire. Freedom had come, but the scars remained. Colonization ended, but its shadow still lingers. Borders drawn in Berlin fuel modern conflicts. Foreign companies still mine African soil. But a new Africa is rising, young, creative, and unstoppable. From Lagos to Kigali, Nairobi to Accra, Africa's sons and daughters are reclaiming their story. Technology, art, and culture are rewriting what it means to be African in the 21st century. The colonizers once divided Africa. Now, Africa unites, in spirit, in pride, in destiny. Africa's story did not end with colonization. It began long before, and continues today. Every tale of struggle is a story of strength. Every scar is proof of survival. If you believe the world should know Africa's true history, then share this story. Subscribe to Ancient Africa Tales and help us tell the stories that textbooks forgot. Because Africa is not a chapter in someone else's book. Africa is the book. And her story is far from over.